I'm for the clothes closet. I've been a member here for like 10 years, but a few months ago, I was invited to take care of this clothes closet. Well, I have never done anything like that other than work at a place, but anyways, they talked me into doing this. It was terrible. I mean, I didn't know where I was going to go or where I was going to do or whatever, but and I went home and I prayed about it. I had to pray about it because I didn't know if I really wanted to do this. And anyway, so I dug in and organized it, and I guess I've done all right because I've had a lot of compliments. But anyways, we have done so much for people. I've got to tell you about the family that just lost their home about 3 weeks ago, and Pat Elmore, she came up to the clothes closet when we weren't open with all the people, and there was 5 children and 2 adults, and she was able to give them 5 huge bags for the kids, and then she gave a huge bag to the mother, and then she went to her brother Wayne, and you all know Wayne Shadden, so he talked to his Sunday school class, and they took a collection up, and they went into Kmart and bought 5 winter coats for these kids, and it was just amazing what they've done. Anyways, and then I want to thank Brenda Hinch that she's done so much that she even brought truckloads of clothes for us. So we've got abundance of clothes and lots and lots and lots of work. But I can't thank everyone for helping me get started on something I knew nothing about. I don't know what else to. You going to say something?
Yeah,
okay.
I do will say something.
Okay.
Miss Gloria, she's a little nervous being up here.
Yeah, I am.
But she stepped into this. Fran had been leading for years,
Yeah.
Fran Gospodarek, and Gloria was voluntold that she was going to take this. But no, she has stepped into this very important work. And I want you all to know, you see from the pictures, the heartbeat of the clothes closet is to care for folks who don't have enough clothes, and to do it in a way that preserves dignity, that honors the sacred worth of every person that comes through that clothes closet. It's not a box full of giveaway clothes. It is a department store, okay? Right. If you've never been up there, you need to go check it out. It is set up just like a department store. It's a true shopping experience that is guided by our very capable clothing closet worker bees. And we are thankful that it is a part of our church, and we're thankful for you.
Well, I wanted to tell people my goal was to not be a giveaway. I wanted people to come in and shop like everybody else gets to shop. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're having hard times, but let them shop and make them feel like they're needed and they're wanted, and And
you've done just that.
I hope so. I really hope so.
You have. Thank you, Miss Gloria.
Well, thank you.
This is my Wayne Shadden uniform. If I talk too long, Perk said he was going to give me the hook. And I'm afraid if I start to preach that he's going to give me the hook. Nancy said I have to stick to my notes because if I don't, I start to ramble. When I was asked to share some things about Bubba Fest, I had a pretty good idea about what I wanted to talk about. But I thought it'd be good to have a scripture to use, and God gave me one. It's Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. My plan was to talk only about Bubba Fest, but you all know that God is the ultimate multitasker. His plan was for me to get outside of the Bubba Fest box. So Bubba Fest was God's plan, but I want to let you know how it started and how it has affected so many people, and a little bit about how it has affected me. In 2004, I had known Wayne Shadden only for a couple of months, and he told me that God had put something on his heart, and he wasn't sure what it was, but he thought it involved the outdoors and trying to reach unchurched men. He asked me to pray for him. Well, I did. I asked God to please tell Wayne what it was he wanted Wayne to do. About 5 weeks later, some of us found ourselves at a Christian Outdoor Ministries meeting in Thompson Station. Its purpose was to help those who have a love for the outdoors reach unchurched men. How did that happen? That was God's plan. So Bubba Fest is part of Christian Outdoor Ministries. And it was God's plan that Christian Outdoor Ministries get involved with Wheeling Sportsmen. That's a group that help physically and otherwise impaired people enjoy God's creation. Now, what does that have to do with Bubba Fest? Well, it was at a Wheeling Sportsman's hunt that we met Larry Huskins. Larry was a guy who just loved to hunt, and he was wheelchair bound. God thought it would be a good idea if Larry had a powered wheelchair. Those things aren't cheap, but neither is God. Out of the blue, a man comes into Shadden Tire. Wayne describes this man as being burned beyond even resembling a person. And he is in a powered wheelchair. So Wayne starts a conversation with him, tells him a little bit about Christian Outdoor Ministries, and that there's a guy that we would like to provide a power wheelchair for. Well, before that guy left, he wrote a check for $8,500 to help cover the cost. Larry was given that chair at Bubba Fest. It changed his life. It changed his heart. And at Bubba Fest, he gave his testimony. God had all that planned. It was God's plan that at Bubba Fest that we met Jeff Ebel. His company is Go Therefore Ministries. I always thought that was a cool name for a ministry, Go Therefore. He prints and distributes these life reference manuals. We have given these out at not only Bubba Fest, but at Camp Discovery, hunts in Hebbicksburg, Sequatchie Valley, North Carolina, Iowa, Ohio. That's outside the box. It was God's plan that we get involved with wounded warriors. Now, what does that have to do with Bubba Fest? A few years ago, there were 12 wounded warriors who came up to Clark Range for a hog hunt. When they started arriving, they were all in their own cars and their own trucks, and I'm sure God thought there's got to be a better way to do this. Without a lot of details, that year at Bubba Fest, those wounded warriors were given a minibus so they could all travel together. That was God's plan. On a personal note, on that same hunt, I had planned on kind of hanging back at the lodge and helping with breakfast and maybe do a little bit of quality control along the way. But that wasn't God's plan. They were short one guide. And I guess since I'm short, I was the one that got picked. We were in the hunting blind with a 25-year-old hero who was dealing with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And before all these hunts, we always pray. And at the end of the prayer, this soldier says, "Amen." Good enough for me. Well, I feel like something, kind of nudging me on the shoulder to say something or do something. So I asked him, I said, "Where do you go to church?" He said, "My wife and I are both believers, but we're mad at God." Another kind of nudge. I said, "Well, are you mad because of what has happened to you?" And he turned around and he looked at me and he says, "No, I'm mad at God because my 2-year-old son died." And I said, "Okay, what now?" Well, when you don't know what to do, you pray. So the other guide and myself, we put our hands on this guy's shoulder and we prayed for him and asked for God's peace and God's love to heal him and his wife. Now let's fast forward a year. Same hunt, pretty much the same group of soldiers. And that night at dinner, they received one of these life reference manuals. When we handed these out that night at dinner, he took one, and he had one. He came back for the second hunt. He had one, but he took one again. And he asked, could he say something? And so he stood up and he told the guys that he had received one of these the year before, didn't think very much about it, took it home, threw it on the dresser. But one day something told him to pick it up, and he did. And he said that in that book, he found all of the answers that he needed. He said it changed his heart, it changed his mind, but most of all, it changed his attitude about God. That was God's plan, and I guess also to get me out of the kitchen. What Bubba Fest is not, it is not about deer heads and barbecue. It's about a 10-year-old kid named Zeke who was up here in a wheelchair giving his testimony, and a 30-year-old man comes running down this aisle and kneels down and asks Zeke to pray for him. Now, God had prepared that man's ears and his heart to hear what Zeke was going to say. It's about Clay Dyer. He is a professional bass fisherman that was born with no arms and no legs. I'll digress for one moment. Go on ESPN's website, search Clay Dyer, and you will see a special story about him. He was up here moving around on the stage as best he could. And he said his favorite 2 books were the Bible and the Bass Pro Shop catalog. His message was how blessed he was, and that if Clay can, you can. Finally, it's about God working on my faith, and it needs it. Bubba Fest has always been pretty much self-funded, but a few years ago, we were only 2 or 3 weeks out from Bubba Fest, and we didn't have the money to pay for stuff. And we had a big bill for pork butts. I guess you could say we were about to be in pork butt purgatory. We were discussing whether or not to charge $5 for the food. One of the guys stood up and he said, "Now wait just a minute. What kind of faith would that be? Are you telling me we're thinking about charging somebody for salvation?" Into that idea. The next week, God provided the funds. So what's Bubba Fest about? It's about planting a seed and let God do the rest. It's about letting go and letting God have control over the planning for our lives. After Bubba Fest, I always pray that the day after, or the week after, or the month after Bubba Fest, that somewhere there's a family sitting down to eat breakfast on Sunday morning, and the dad says, "Y'all get ready, we're going to church." Glory be to God. Thank you.
I represent the Martin School Initiative Program, which began in this church 2 years ago. Drew set up a meeting with Dr. Daniels, the principal at Martin, so we could discuss how our church could help the school. Following the meeting, Francis Carson and I met with him to discuss how we could facilitate their needs. And there were many. Our first activity was small but effective. Francis and I served cookies and punch at the Meet the Teacher night at the beginning of the school year of 2015. Apparently, this had never been done at the school before. It was a new experience to the teachers, the children, and the parents, some of whom came up and asked us how much the cookies cost. We received numerous compliments and thank yous. However, the first year was frustrating. It was a trust-building experience for us, and we had more volunteers than we had opportunities to serve. We continued to talk to the staff to attempt to find additional ways that we could help. In June of 2016, a new principal was announced, which threw another monkey wrench into the thing. Drew, Francis, myself, the new principal, and the assistant principal met here at the church to begin to make a plan of how we could implement our helping those people with their needs. We were able to begin the year with volunteers assisting in classrooms at the very beginning of the school year, the first week. There are currently 10 to 15 volunteers working with teachers in classrooms on a regular basis. Our volunteers have been called upon to help at a last-minute fundraiser, one of which was at lunch making snow cones. Some of us had red hands for the next week. 5 or 6 of us worked with the school counselor to make that a big success. We have been called upon to assist with monitoring schools for health-wide health evaluations, and one of our volunteers, who is a former nurse, ended up helping with blood pressure readings. If you've ever wanted to experience 50 kindergartners on a school bus and then having a picnic lunch on the ground at a farm, see me. Chaperones are hard for the teachers to find because so many of the people, the moms and dads, are both working, and they have to have chaperones for these kinds of activities. So our volunteers are really helping to fill in with these kinds of activities. We also met with a school psychologist who identified approximately 70 children who qualify for weekend snack packs. 10 to 15 volunteers here at the church fill the packs, the little boxes, and then deliver them to the children on Fridays. Last year, our clothing closet came to the support of our initiative. The school nurse asked if we could provide some clothes. Some of the children have accidents in school, they get sick, and they need something to wear. And so I came over, I talked to Gloria, and the next day had a bag of clothes to take over there. We have since supplemented it this year with more clothes for them. We're also trying to establish a ministry this year to provide winter coats for the needy children in the school. They've already given us a closet that we can use to store them. The mission team decided this year to give each child at Martin a personal care pack instead of the school supplies. This included shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, combs, brushes, soap, a washcloth. Every child received one in the school. That was 700 kids. We are making a difference at this school. The requests that I get now, I'm the one that they call. We are referred to as, I need one of those Methodist volunteers. The entire faculty is now recognizing us. We are not just making a difference in the children's lives, but we're also making a difference in the teacher and the support staff. As a 34-year veteran school teacher, I really understand and appreciate what we're doing for them. And this has only been in operation for 18 months. I am stunned by the amount of outpouring from this church that we have contributed to this school, and see the progress that we've made in such a short time, and look forward to continuing it and growing it even further. Thank you.
They've asked me to come and tell you all a bit about the bridge and the experience that me and my wife have had with the bridge. I've never really had a problem believing in God. I guess I've always known there was something bigger than myself. But what I did not know is who God is. I had many misconceptions about God, Christianity, the church, as I'm sure many other people do. But over the past few months, I've had a chance to see the teachings of Jesus at work. I've had a chance to see God work through the people of the bridge. The bridge, they're reaching out to the community, trying to bring people to God, or bringing people to God. They're not trying to bring people to God. They are bringing people to God, regardless of who they are or where they come from. I never really understood discipleship, but through their example, I am starting to understand what that word really means. But it's not all about me. My wife, I've seen her change quite a bit over these past few months. I've seen the effect that the bridge has had on her. They've treated her with respect and compassion. And as a result, this woman that had no belief in God has found faith. Faith in herself, faith in others, and faith in God. And I'm going to be honest, we've both been very good at leading people down the wrong path. We've both been a bad influence on people, but now we have a chance to really lead people towards something better. And I've seen Patricia really flourish in this new role. She's out there every day trying to get people to come to the bridge so that they can learn a little bit about God themselves. To make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of Crossville and the world. I've really seen them hold true to this statement. Thank you.
Patricia, would you stand again? This is Kevin's wife, Patricia. They are some of our newest members. They came to us the very first Sunday night. Our associate pastor, Summer Worley, and her crew had the first bridge, and Kevin and Patricia showed up. They were the first folks in the door. They had a great time. They came back the next week. She brought food to share, and he brought his guitar to play. So they were hooked after that, and they were certainly with us and continue to be such a big part of what happens at the bridge. It's a very special place where folks can feel safe coming to put their toe in the water and hear a little bit about Jesus, about God, and begin to see what that might look like in their lives. So we're thankful for that. You've heard four different stories today. There are dozens more here in our church family. So many things are happening in this place by the grace of God and through the work of your hands and your hearts. And so know that as the Spirit moves you, if you feel called to live into one of these or others, or maybe God is calling you to something new, share that with someone around you. Share that with a Sunday school teacher, a small group leader, a staff person, and we'll help figure out what that looks like for us together as a family. Thank you so much for listening. I know we've gone a little bit over, but if it's been worth it, say amen. Amen. Thank you. Let's stand and sing together as Scott leads us.